Good morning. Put the old lapel mic on. Good morning, guys. Matt is on, Rich is on, Walt, Jim, Tiny, good morning. Jared, Gene, Will Parker. Let me apologize straight out of the gate, guys. I tried to flip the screen, and for some reason my iPhone turned everything green. I'm going to have to work on that for you. So if you understand hexadecimal computer language, you're probably looking at this going, wow, that is backwards. If you don't understand hexadecimal computer language, that's okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Rich. This is Emerging Threats Monday. I'm Rich Brown, your host and tour guide, co-host of the American Warrior Show, co-founder of the American Warrior Society, retired Marine Corps officer, former police officer, former corrections officer, former special operations officer, former regional manager for disaster preparedness and government operations with the American Red Cross. And on Emerging Threats Monday, every week, I try to scare the crap out of you on Monday, give you something to think about besides COVID. We've talked about the Yellowstone supervolcano. We've talked about genocide as a potential threat. We talked about, what else did we talk about? What have we talked about? Besides genocide. Oh, we talked about economic collapse. Just so you know, I want to thank everybody for watching this morning and for watching the replay. The thousands of people that watching the replay, I really appreciate it. Hopefully you'll find this content entertaining. I will tell you that I'm going to merge Emerging Threats Monday and Friday since a lot of the states are going back to work, and I thank God for that. People are going to get back to work, but what we're going to do is I'll put some of the emerging threats that I still have in the queue for you on Fridays. We'll continue to do Coffee with Rich on Friday mornings, and we'll do some emerging threats there as well. Check out the AmericanWarriorSociety.com if you haven't already, and we've got all of our premium content there as well as a lot of open source content, so if you want to check that out, please do so. Let's see here. Matt says, good morning, Rich. Christopher is on. John Jock says, good morning. Will Parker says, green is my favorite color. Green's a great color. I don't know why it's doing that. I thought I had the perfect solution for y'all this morning and it didn't work out. Paul is on. John is on. Bob Bale is on. John says, are we converting hexa to, no, we're not. Jared says, good morning. Alan Kelly is on. So today on Emerging Threats Monday, we are going to be talking about artificial intelligence and the threat that AI can have to us. Yeah, is it an emerging threat? I think so. It's got me a little concerned. I'm not freaking out about it, but it's something that we need to have on our radar screen because just like the automobile, when it changed everything. And we had a lot of things that we could, a lot of laws and technology that we could strap onto it with how we did carriages, but we had to write a whole nother subset of laws to deal with the threat that automobiles posed to. But they were also extremely helpful, as we all know. But with them came some dangers, and we wrote them into our laws, and we were fine. I think we have to do the same thing with AI, or there's a potential for danger. And here's a great example. The simplest way to understand AI is to say that it's a software that writes itself. So what this is, as we all know, computer language is binary, ones and zeros, but this is another way of expressing the binary code, and this is hexadecimals. So let's say this is a code that I wrote, for you. And this is a code that, let's say my software, my AI decided to write. Now all I wanted to do was say, good morning and welcome to Coffee with Rich. but my AI decided to write it another way. Would I catch it if it did that? If it ran away with itself and decided to start writing? You can see there's some commonalities in that hexadecimal, but there's also some significant differences. And we'll talk about those today. So like I said, the simplest way to understand AI is to understand that it's software that writes itself. And before I go any further, let me pause right there. Let's take a sip of our coffee and make sure we like and share. We got 35 people on this morning for a little discussion on the emerging threat of AI. Please like and share. Let's see here. My brother Jeff is on. Bruce is on. Terry, Jim, Jan, Dr. John Eden, Clinton Houchins is on. Ernie is on. Wow. Lots and lots of people on this morning. Les is on. 36 people. Please like and share. So AI, software that writes itself, one way of looking at it. There's two different types. There's applied AI, which are AI which does narrow tasks that we want it to do, like language programs. It can facial recognition is another great one. And then there's general AI, which is doing tasks that humans normally do better than humans do. But AI isn't perfect, and let's discuss some of the ways that it's not perfect. I'm going to discuss that. I'm going to talk about some generalized dangers of AI, then we'll get into some specific threats with regard to AI, and then we'll close this Emerging Threats Monday out. One of the things when I was doing my research for this, they asked AI, this is a tench fish. You see this tench fish? AI recognized it. Now go in Google Images and find all the tench fishes you can find. And they were impressed. It came back with millions of examples excuse me, of tench fishes. And then it asked the AI, how did you do that? That's pretty amazing. Was it the height of the dorsal fin, the length of the fish? And it said, and it returned an image of human fingers. All kinds of human fingers. And they said, what does that have to do with a tench fish? How did you use this to find the tench fish? And evidently that human beings are holding these tench fishes. So it looked for human fingers in this orientation and then run another little thing looking for the dorsal sizes. So even though we know it did right, we don't know how it's going to approach this problem. And herein lies the danger of these things. Another example is they asked it to tell the difference between dogs and wolves, which is pretty interesting. With some dogs, it's easy. A Chihuahua and a wolf, even though they're 99% similar genetically, they're still vastly different. Well, the AI kept getting hung up on a Siberian Husky. And it said, why do you think, the programmers asked it, why do you think this Siberian Husky, what are you using to base that on, that this Siberian Husky is a wolf? And it returned the image of the snow behind the picture. And it turns out that there is a bias in pictures of wolves, whereas the background for wolves were always in the snow. So it saw something that looked like a wolf and it had snow in the background, thus it must be a wolf. So there are problems with how it interprets the data that it's given. 2016, Tesla found this out the hard way, man, because it had a self-driving program that was only supposed to be used on the highway. And when they wrote the program, it told the AI to distinguish a truck by what the back of a truck looks like. Because on the highway, that's all you would see is the back of the automobile, or the back of the truck, the back of the semi. But somebody decided to drive it on a backcountry road, and when the semi pulled out in front of them, the car didn't stop. It kept going because it thought it was coming up to an overpass. It didn't know how to identify a truck long ways. So again, there's problems with AI. It's got problems because it's inherent with whatever the programmer was. They have designed software to make AI, applied AI, to go out and find the ideal job candidate. Well, how do they do that? They take, well, Rich Brown was a great job candidate. Let's load his resume in there. And so was Carl, and so was Jeannie, and so was Bill, and Susie. We'll load all their resumes in there. These are the candidates we like. Find more like them. And then it starts running its programs. The next thing you know, it's like it's chucking out all these African-American candidates because their name isn't Bill, Susie, or Joni. Maybe they have different names. Or it's saying, oh, this person went to a women's college. None of these other candidates had that. So thus, we don't want anybody that went to an all-women's college. So it starts acting in weird, biased ways and racist ways that we can't understand. Another example of AI being problematic, they gave AI the little body parts to a robot. And if I gave them to you or to a child, they would know to assemble the robot. And they asked the AI, take these body parts and walk it from A to B. And what the AI did was it stacked the parts on top of itself and it fell down to get to B. Or it says, here's a human body. Elbows bend this way, neck does this, legs move this way. Now, make this thing run from point A to point B, this human body. And the AI causes the human to run backwards, flip over itself a couple somersaults, run backwards with its arms flailing, and when the inertia carries it backwards to just flip and go. So AI is imperfect. It didn't see the optimal way that the human body was supposed to move. It just said, get it from point A to point B. Please like and share. Before we go much further, and we talk about the general dangers of AI, let's see who's on. I've got 42 people on this morning. Thank you for joining me. Chris is on. Tony is on. Jim is on. Robert is on. Mike Reagan, Chief Warrant Officer. Good morning, sir. Doug Lightfoot is on. Good morning, Doug. Jan is on. Paul, Brian, Ed, 43 people joining me this morning and thousands more hopefully in the replay. Here's a problem with AI. Like any tool, it's only as good as the person wielding it. You know, for this, could be used to cut someone out of their car seat. In the wrong hands, it could be used to rob somebody. So it's just a tool. It's morally ambiguous, just like AI. But there's a neat book out there, The Black Swan. If you haven't read it, I highly encourage you reading it. It's by Nassim Taleb. It's a fantastic little book about the consequences of the highly improbable happening. And of course, we can think of an example like 9/11. You know, who would assume that terrorists would hijack airplanes and fly them into our buildings? I mean, who would have thought about that before the morning of 9/11? Very few people would. Another classic example of a black swan event, highly improbable, things you can't necessarily predict, would be best expressed in the life of a turkey. A turkey's born, and from the moment it hatches, the greatest thing in this turkey's life isn't its mother or father turkey, it's the farmer. Because the farmer shows up every single morning and every single night, and it scatters food for the turkey. It makes sure it has a nice little pen. If it gets too close to the road, it gets put back in the pen, and it gets fed and watered and has a nice warm place. And the farmer's the greatest thing in the world until the second week of November. And then we all know what happens. But the turkey doesn't see it coming because it has no frame of reference for what's about to happen on the morning that the farmer doesn't come out with feed. He comes out with a hatchet. So these are these highly improbable events, but I would say with that metaphor that we're using with regard to the turkey and the farmer, with AI, I'm not sure which one we are. Are we the turkey that thinks AI is the greatest thing in the world, or are we the farmer? I don't know. And I don't know that anybody knows, because we need to start writing some regulation for this stuff or it could easily get away from us. You see, one of the concerns with AI is the AI that's written may be misaligned with our values. But I would say within that context, there's a bit of a misunderstanding there. If Kim Jong-un writes it and he has his North Korean programmers write this program, it may be perfectly aligned with their cultural values. It may be misaligned with our values. Take, for example, this. I'll let the cat out of the bag, folks. This one right here says, good morning and welcome to Coffee with Rich. This line of code that my AI wrote says, eliminate all who watch Coffee with Rich. But can you spot the error in the code? Can you spot the error in the code fast enough before it runs an execute command? Something to think about. And here's the problem: when it starts writing its own code, it may be unrecoverable from what was written before. Because the problem with AI is, if it needs power, it will pull power from something else to keep itself going. It doesn't need to ask you, it needs to keep executing. If it needs to network, it can spider web out and put copies of itself and servers around the world so that it cannot be wiped out. These are some of the generalized dangers of AI. Now we're going to get into some specific dangers, and before I do, please like and share. We're at 45 people joining me live this morning. Let's see here. Jesse is on. Shannon is on. Paul is on. Good morning. John says, did you try the Flaming Hot Cheeto? Oh, he's replying to Doug, sorry. Jan says, the Black Swan on Amazon. Yeah, there you go. There's a link. Check out the book, definitely. Thank you, Jan. Appreciate that. Let's see here. AI sounds like that really smart but contrarian friend who has interesting opinions but should never be left in charge. That's a great way to put it, man. I like that. So here's some of the dangers. Let's talk about them. One of the dangers that I see is the stock market. According to a UK research firm, 45% of all cash equity trades are done via AI. Say that again, 45% of all cash equity trades are done by AI. And it does this by analyzing millions upon millions of data points in real time and capturing that info and providing it. And when I was looking, I wanted to find businesses that were really excited about telling you how they have this great AI, and just read what they wrote on their website. And one of the examples I saw was this one called Holly. Didn't that sound nice? This AI named Holly. Holly is a self-learning robo-trading platform that's, I'm reading from their website, that subjects dozens of investment algorithms to more than 1 million different trading scenarios, and only the strategies with a success rate of 60% or higher and a 2-to-1 profit factor are shared with their traders. But waiting till the morning after Holly's ran all these calculations to share it with a trader, doesn't that seem a little antiquated? You know what we should probably do? Holly's smart. I mean, Holly's looking at all this data for us, millions and millions of data points. When it finds a 60% success rate with a 2-to-1 profit ratio, we should let Holly make those trades. I mean, heck, a Belgian company recently moved its trading company 5 blocks closer to the Belgian stock exchange just so it can make trading faster over the glass cables that it had running over there. So let's just let Holly do that. And here's the danger. Let's say Holly starts making these trades and Holly is maximizing profits for its company. But the next thing Holly does is it devalues the US dollar and causes an economic collapse, because Holly doesn't understand that that would be a bad thing. I'm maximizing profit. I'm making you guys money, and I've destroyed the economy. So again, that's one possible scenario among many possible scenarios that you might imagine when you let AI start making trades for you. Most of these trades are so complex already, people can't understand the second and third order effect. Look at the CDOs that led to the housing market crisis in 2008. Who understood credit default swaps and synthetic CDOs and all this stuff? I mean, I think I read the book The Big Short maybe twice, and I still don't think I understand all of it. Saw the movie a couple times. Here again, I don't think AI is going to understand those second, third order effects either. It just knows how to maximize profits, and I'm sure Holly does a great job at that. Eddie is on, Tim is on. Good morning, thanks. And please like and share. Let's talk about medicine as a specific threat that AI could come in. Now, is there room for AI in medicine? Heck yeah, there is, because guess what? Medical error is the third leading cause of death in the United States. But nobody's saying we should ban doctors. But doctors and medical errors lead to 250,000 Americans. Let me say that again. 250,000 Americans die every year via medical errors. That's third leading cause of death behind heart disease and cancer. Imagine if AR-15s were killing 250,000 people a year. Anyway, so we have a problem with our medical system, and AI is just waiting to jump in and solve these problems, because if you look at physician burnout rates, of all the physicians polled in a recent poll, 45% of them said they were burnt out. Physician suicides are two times the general population. So we know we have a problem. When you look at a radiologist looking at an image of MRI, CAT scan, X-ray, it gets its butt kicked. A normal radiologist that's been trained for years gets crushed by an AI who can spot tumors and breast cancer far better than any human being on the planet. But what happens when we let AI do some very applied things in our healthcare system? Well, we saw in one study that it led to racial biasing. The medical algorithm was there to predict healthcare costs rather than illness, and it led to discrimination. So we have to be very, very careful what we let AI do, especially in the healthcare industry, because we rely on it so much. But I would tell you, if you listen to the futurists, they're saying that in the future, the AI will diagnose the problem and the AI will perform the surgery. And if that doesn't worry you, and maybe I'm antiquated, man. Maybe I'm a child of the 1960s and I just don't get it. But I'm telling you, I have some concerns about that. Remember my self-writing AI? All I wanted to do was tell you good morning and welcome to Coffee with the Rich. It decided to eliminate all who watch Coffee with the Rich. Can you spot the error? Here's another concern I have: surveillance. Big concern there. So recently, a couple of months ago, I took a flight to Paris, and I flew from Nashville to Detroit, Detroit to Paris, Charles de Gaulle Airport. And it was probably about 11 o'clock at night. We were about to board our flight to Paris, and I had my ball cap on, my glasses on, I got a beard. And they said, yeah, line up. So I've got my boarding pass in one hand and my passport in the other. And like any other time I've flown internationally, I'm thinking I'll show these documents and they'll let me in. I lined up. They said, look in the camera. I looked in the camera and I thought, Rich, you've left your glasses on. You left your hat on. How is this thing going to spot you with this beard? It took that computer with me wearing glasses, a ball cap, and a beard about a millisecond to say, good morning and welcome aboard, Mr. Brown. And it did that for the 300 and something people that were on my flight. So this AI is incredibly good at facial recognition. I will give it a thumbs up on that. But what happens when you turn that amazing capability into a surveillance state? DoD has something called Argus, and it is on a lot of our drones right now. And it has a 1.8 gigapixel video stream running on 368 chips. It logs 1 million terabytes of data a day, cataloging people, vehicles, any moving object, and it stores it in real time for all time. Argus does. Pretty amazing technology. But what happens when it's used as a tool of oppression? You know, when we were in the UK, after we left France, we went over to the UK a month or so ago, well, right before the coronavirus hit. And they had these surveillance vans parked along the Royal Mile in Scotland about every 6 blocks or so, and they've got cameras all around them, and it tells you, we're cataloging your faces and building a database. And of course, it says, don't cover your face. I'm like, who are you to tell me don't cover my face because you want this machine to recognize me? And they were selling t-shirts on the street that said, make Orwell fiction again. So I would submit that it's on its way. China right now is using this technology for their social credit system, and it's watching you. Are you the type of person that smokes walking down the street? It's identifying you smoking. It's reducing your social credit score. Did that camera just see you jaywalk? Okay, cool. We'll reduce your score. Next thing you know, you can't You can't rent a movie at Blockbuster because your credit score's down, or you can't get a job, or you won't get a loan, etc. So these are things that we need to be concerned about. Before I talk about the next specific threat, let's see what folks are saying here. Thank you to the 40 people that are on. Please like and share. Alan says, news programs just last night where facial recognition is being used in school related to the pros and cons. Hey, good morning, Alex. One of my Gunny Da Cinco was on. Semper Fi, brother. Yeah, there's a lot of really neat things that AI could do, especially with regard to facial recognition, but there's a lot of bad things it can do too. Again, it's a tool, just like we said a minute ago. The Glock 17 that the local police officer used can save lives and do a lot of good in the community. That same handgun in the hands of a bad guy can do terrible things in the community. Let's talk about some of the other things AI can do extremely well and be extremely dangerous at doing. Social manipulation. This is something I worry about. We saw with Cambridge Analytica what it did using 50 million Facebook users to try to swing an election. There's also been some chatter that they were using AI, not necessarily Cambridge Analytica, I forget who it was, to swing the Brexit referendum. So I would tell you, these AIs, once they start reading your Facebook profile, they see what you post, they see what you search for, they're mining this data, they know you better than you know you. Because this AI knows your psychological blind spots and how to exploit them. Not because it has a beating heart and all this stuff. It's as cold as it gets, folks. It's just running on hexadecimals and making some inferences about what you may want to see or may not want to see. You ever figured out how, man, I've been looking at toasters now, and now it's showing me Cuisinarts. How does it know that I'm setting up a new kitchen? Well, you've provided it enough data to know that. So we have to be careful. When you start talking about social manipulation, it can also lead to civil unrest. We saw that with the Black Lives Matter, a lot of that was AI generated. Blue Lives Matter, and they were playing Americans against each other using AI technology. So again, social manipulation is a danger specific to AI that I see if left unchecked. Let's talk about another one here, man. Weapons. Now, when we think, if you're, I grew up in the 80s, and I remember seeing the Terminator, and oh my God, Skynet. And when Skynet becomes self-aware, it launches the missiles, and it's growing at a geometric rate, and it's got to wipe out all the humankind. Or I read another thing about AI, like what if you told this machine, this AI machine, you must make paper clips. That's your only job, make paper clips. And we all die because it covers the world in paper clips. I mean, we never know. AI, as we talked about at the beginning, is a self-writing software. So a lot of people will automatically think about weapons and how they can be a specific danger of AI. And we're going to talk about some instances, but I'm not going to go too far down into this because to me, that's the one that we can all easily think of. I'm going to read a quote by President Putin. The Russian president recently said, quote, "Artificial intelligence is the future, not only for Russia, but for all humankind. It comes with enormous opportunities, but also threats that are difficult to predict. Whoever becomes the leader in this sphere will become the ruler of the world," end quote. And he's right. Once unleashed, coded and deployed, it will have the values of the regime that wrote it. I think a lot of times I'll think of it's going to have the values of the programmer that wrote it, and that may be true, but it's going to have the values of the regime that wrote it. And those are not always our values. Think if ISIS started writing AI computer program. What would it tell people to do? What would it tell its machines to do? The problem is, once it starts writing and replicating, just like we saw here, good morning and welcome to Coffee with the Rich, eliminate all who watch with Coffee with the Rich. Once it starts writing its own software, it may be impossible to dismantle. A good example would be the Navy created the Pegasus drone. And this drone it's a jet drone. It has some incredible stealth technology. One of the things it does is cameras that face upward and look at the sky, and then it projects that images on LED panels underneath the aircraft, so that if you were looking up, you would never see it. It would look like it's completely blended in with the sky. It also could do its own air-to-air refueling without the aid of anybody. It could land on a pitching aircraft carrier deck without anybody helping it. Man, it's doing so good. It's doing all these automated processes. Maybe we can just let it automate the kill decision on where to make a strike. All we got to do is put the algorithm in, find these people. You got facial recognition software, and take them out. But we cannot start automating extrajudicial killings outside the legal process. So I think the Navy has scrapped Pegasus. I tried to do a little research on that, obviously for a whole lot of reasons. They're not letting out a lot of information about Pegasus, but the technology to do air-to-air refueling, I think they're going to use some of that to maybe create air tankers in the sky that are just drones. Or what about the Talon? The Talon was designed to be this big tank-like thing that was going to roll around and had guns on it. And they were going to, in Iraq one year, they were going to take the Talon out and do a big dog and pony show for a bunch of generals sitting in the bleachers. And the Talon comes rolling out and it aims its guns at the generals. And a Marine comes running out and tackles Talon to the ground, and they shut it off. So when I heard about that, I thought, has this ever happened before? And I found an instance in South Africa where a GDF 005 cannon suddenly swung its cannon on another robot cannon and started firing and killed 9 and injured 15. So who knows why that cannon suddenly saw the other cannon as a threat and decided to take it out. It could be one little weird line of code that caused it to misidentify a friendly cannon and take it out. So I think using AI in weapons is a very dangerous proposition. And like I said, this is the one that we most easily leaps to my mind when I think about the dangers of AI or nanobots or some of these other things, or swarms of killer drones. You can let your mind go crazy with this one. So I'm not going to go any deeper into the weapons and artificial intelligence, because I think that's really pretty easy to wrap your head around. Before I go any further, let's see what folks are saying this morning. Lydia has joined us. Jody is on. Wade is on. Alex is Simplify. Miss you, brother. Hope your tattoo parlor is doing good. If you need a tattoo in West Virginia, go check out Gunny Dacinko at Arsenal Tattoo. He's an amazing tattoo artist and a good Marine. Jim says smart guns with AI controlled off switch. Yeah, there's some ways that you can, I was looking last night, there's some pretty amazing ways that you can potentially build in systems that can shut itself down. I'm not going to get into that because I was reading it, my eyes were going crossed. But it's pretty interesting. War Games by Matthew Broderick. Yeah, that was a great flick, my brother points out. Jan says, yes, it happened in RoboCop movie. I need to check that. From the 80s, or they made another one. Good morning from Fort Worth. Oh, Mo is on. Good morning, Mo. So we got 2 more things to talk about, how AI is potentially dangerous. I've kept you on for 35 minutes. I want to respect your time. Let's talk about the last 2 specific threats of artificial intelligence. Deep fake. If you're not familiar with deep fakes, man, these are synthetic media in which a person, an existing image or video is replaced with someone else's likeness. And they're getting really good at this. Matter of fact, last year, there was a professor from the University of Southern California that said by the end of 2020, you will not be able to recognize a deep fake from the real thing. And this is a concern, man, because let's say you have a bias against the president right now, and there's a lot of people that do. And all of a sudden you start seeing deep fake videos that conform to your bias. Well, Americans seem to be, based on what I see on social media, not really good at fact checking. They see the deep fake, it conforms to their bias, and they start spreading it. But it never happened. How will we tell the difference? What if AI starts writing these? This is a concern. I don't know how we're gonna control it, but like I said at the very beginning of the show this morning, With AI, we need to write in some regulations. We had to regulate the automobile industry to make them relatively safe to use and enjoy. We're going to have to regulate AI, and we need to figure it out quick, because if we don't, it could be runaway. Another example of AI's use or misuse is the criminal justice system. 13 states use something called Compass, which is a criminal justice sentencing algorithm. You have the defendant fill out a questionnaire, load it into the computer. They load in a lot of stats about him, his age, race, date of birth, so whatever. I don't know what kind of bits of data are used, and then Compass uses its algorithms to determine sentencing guidelines for this person. But guess what happens when they looked into it? There was a whole lot of bias in these and how the algorithm calculates recidivism rates. And I've told you guys before on another show we did, every year we would meet, we being the Marine Corps Recruiting Command, would meet up at a hotel in New Orleans, guys from all over the United States, and we would argue about an algorithm, because we knew we were going to plug in all these different data points, but how the algorithm writes itself is going to be the outcome of how much work we have to do on recruiting. And if you get it wrong or you screw up one of the metrics, then you're in trouble. But my concern isn't these that has human involvement. It's these black box algorithms that decide who gets a job, who gets a loan, who gets credit, what stock gets purchased. And when we don't understand how the code is written, or what the algorithm is designed to do or not do, or what product it's going to produce for us, how do we stop it? So, with that being said, remember, AI is self-writing software. I wanted to tell you good morning and welcome to Coffee with Rich. My AI decided to eliminate all who watch Coffee with Rich. So, thanks for watching this morning. I'll see if you guys got any questions or comments, and then I'll let you get on with your Monday. Hope it's going to be a good Monday wherever you're at today. We've been talking about Emerging Threats Monday. We've talked about supervolcanoes here, economic collapses, genocide. I've got a few more in the queue for you. This morning we talked about artificial intelligence and some of the dangers inherent with AI. We talked about applied AI. General AI is even scarier. Most of the examples I've been using this morning are just examples of applied AI going bananas. What happens when general AI is thinking faster and soaks up all human knowledge in about a nanosecond? Where will we be then? So Gene says, very interesting show today. George Lopez is on. Good morning, George. Michael is on. Good morning, Semper Fi, brother. Good to see you. Brian, good morning. Rich says, I, for one, welcome our new AI overlords. Yeah, make sure you go on record now, Rich. Hey, guys, I hope you guys are benevolent. We talked about the potential for a Black Swan event. Don't forget, check out the book, What Happens When the Highly Improbable Happens. Anyway, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you for being on this morning. Kept you on for 40 minutes. Hope it was worth your time. Something to think about. If you don't understand computer language, man, it might be a good time to start learning to code, man. Couldn't hurt. Let's see what Doug says. We have had satellites and rockets crash and burn because the scientists and engineers who wrote the programming codes wrong, missed a decimal point, or flipped some numbers in code. Human error will always be a significant issue, even with engineers and rocket scientists. Doug, absolutely right, man. We can make errors writing the code, but what happens when the code writes itself? What values is it writing on? Is it, if we tell this thing, execute this command, it doesn't have any other thing to do than execute exactly what we told it to do. So that's one of the concerns I have when the coder or the regime that writes the code has the bias, man. Very concerning. Kevin says, always good stuff. Thanks, Rich. Bruce says, have a great day, Rich. Doug says, have a great one. Stay safe. Jan says, in one of the most gruesome scenes in 1987 RoboCop movie, a biped robot turns on a non-combatant during a product demo in a boardroom. I won't post it here, but you can find it on YouTube by searching. Yeah, I will, man. That's pretty wild. Semper Fi, brother there, Tony. John says, thanks for this morning. Alan says, another great show. Guys, thanks for coming on. Have a great day. And remember, the fight is coming. Be ready.